Hey everybody, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuit, and this is one of the DungeonSwag Woads. I base coated him black, propped him up on a little rock there for his posture, based him obviously, and then after I had all that together, I dry brushed him in white, and I didn't do it super bright in some spots. I just kind of hit right around his face really bright. The rest of them I left him a little dark because I have some ideas of how I want to paint him up. So to make this as easy as humanly possible on myself, without using speed paints, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a thinned out light brown, like a reddish brown. Let me look for a nutmeg maybe. Yeah. So I have some nutmeg here. And I'm going to get a coat of this all over him so I get into all the under areas and stuff first. I'm just going to thin this out. Probably like, well, not as thin as milk, but pretty thin. And I'm going to get all in here. All the cracks and all that stuff. And this is going to give him a very thin, light coat that when it dries, I'll still be able to see the shadows and the light through it pretty easily. And I'm going to work from that coat to get my paint job. It's a bigger model. These Woods are pretty chunky boys. Tom did a really good job printing these, and Sven did an amazing job designing them. So I always feel like the least important person as the one painting them, talking about them on videos. Because I don't contribute much to the process. But especially anymore, it's like pretty much not me at all. Just half of DungeonSwag by name. I haven't even picked minis for months. That's okay. That's all right. Still believe in the product. Still enjoy painting them, showing them to my players. It's just not what it used to be. If you were interested in DungeonSwag minis and you go on the website, you can use the discount code BISCUIT or whatever it is. It's in my description. And you can save 25% or 10% or I can't remember. There's some kind of discount there for mentioning me when you come to our site. Kind of like a thanks for watching the videos, and you know, if you want to get a free mini to try us out, you can go on our Discord. That's linked down there too, I believe. And we can give you a discount code to get a free miniature sent to your house. That shipping and everything. It doesn't cost you nothing. Because we believe in our products, and we believe that once you've had one, you'll be like, oh, I like these. So there we go with that light brown. That's going to be an interesting coat for him. I'm going to back my camera up and bring some hot air in. We're going to be utilizing a magic item for this part of the process. This is the +5 hot air gun of burning. And you might look at this and generically say, oh, that looks like some kind of name brand hairdryer that you put a piece of tape over, but you would be wrong. It is a magic item. I'm sorry that you're dumb. Once you get that mostly dry, what you want to do is you want to get your next color that you're going to play with. For me, I'm going for this medium brown called Melted Chocolate. You don't want this to be too thick. You want to thin this out a little bit if yours isn't thin. Mine's kind of thin, I think. Let me switch to a more manageable size brush for this paint job. Yeah, mine's pretty thin, so it's going to be all right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out all the portions of him that are like exterior, like scaled clothing. And I'm going to do a thin coat of that melted chocolate there to darken those up a little bit. Okay. Just going to be careful. Okay. And you don't have to do a perfect job hitting every little spot because you've already got an undercoat that's going to provide some interest and make it kind of look nice. So what you're doing here, let me bring my camera back down so you guys can see better. What you're doing here is you're just creating layers of different colors of brown to differentiate between the different portions of the model. You're just taking your time. There's no hurry here. Just enjoy it. So little by little, it's going to start looking pretty good, I'm guessing. What I'm really focusing on is making sure that I don't go with too thick of a coat of paint, because I don't want to lose any of that little bit of 3D effect, that little bit of contrast we got from the initial dry brushing. So thinner, wetter paint is good. And then I'm gonna hit these. Oops, I hit his handle a little bit, but that's okay. We gotta hit this here. And I'm gonna make sure this is thinned out so it goes down all those little pops and cracks a little easier. What do you think? He's gonna look all right, isn't he? Let's get a different color. Let's get something with like a red tone to it. This is called Chocolate Bar. And this is a little thicker, so I'm gonna get a little bit of water here. I'm gonna get a little bit of that paint. There we go. I'm gonna just kind of get that evenly in my brush. Then I'm gonna do these outer, whatever these things are, these vine looking things here. My brush is a little too wet, but it'll be all right. I'm not sure what these are supposed to be. Maybe these should have been green. Maybe they're some kind of leaf. I don't know what they are. Then I'm gonna hit this little center portion of his loincloth, and I'm going to come across this belt because it looks like it's made out of the same material. Then I'm going to do his gauntlets in this too. Okay, and I don't care if I'm hitting those spikes because I'm going to come back and hit those with another color anyways. So I'm just going to get it on there quickly. Okay, he's starting to have some nice different views. I'm going to set that aside. Now I'm going to come in with a metallic. So for my metallic, I'm using chocolate brown. And I'm going to get some of this on my thingy bob there. I'm going to get a little bit of water. I'm going to thin that up a little bit. Now thinning metallics is kind of annoying. So I'm going to do his axe blade in metallic. And I'm going to come back, undo that belt again because I didn't like that one color I put on the belt. So first I'm going to do the back belt and that metallic. Then I'm going to come and do that front part again. Okay. Then let's get a beer cap. If there's one sitting out, there's usually at least some sitting here. What the hell? No beer caps. All right. Oh, here we go. Let's get a beer cap, and let's dry him off before we do anything else. So we're gonna revert back to magic. We're going to get something called strong tone. We're going to shake it up and put it in this beer cap. We're going to give him a bit of a dousing in this product. Okay. Now this is going to be pretty good for what we're trying to accomplish here, because this strong tone gives a mediocre paint job an immediately powerful contrast. Now it doesn't dry and cure real quick because it's oil based, right? So we're gonna have to cheat and use a magic item to speed that up some. Otherwise we'd have to go upstairs for a few hours and then come back to it. And I like to record everything in one shot if I can, because I'm lazy. Yeah, that's why. A lot of people don't realize that's why, but that is why. I have other things I'd rather be doing with my time than just editing videos and talking again and again and again until I get it right. It's just not my bag. Okay, now, if you look here, he's got some pretty sick contrast already. But we're gonna set this down, and while he's still wet, I'm grabbing my favorite color on Earth, Pavement, and that same brush I was using before. I'm gonna get some of that pavement and that rock. I'm just gonna mix that in with that oily paint there and make that pavement colored. I'm not worried about it bleeding or anything. It's gonna be pretty stable. Okay, so we just wanna evenly paint the surface of that rock pavement so it looks nice. Okay, nice. Now we're going to do the surface. We'll do that surface in burnt umber, which is like a darker brown. And it's okay if your brush is a little damp. And it's okay if there's a little bit of that strong coat down here, strong tone down here on your surface. Just let it mix in. It'll just give it some nice variation that you didn't plan for. Sweet. I think we're probably about, I don't know, 14 minutes in. I can check in a second. 13 minutes in. Okay. So you can already see this is going to be a decent paint job when we're done. That's nice. That's good to see a paint job going well. Now what we want to do is we want to get kind of a vibrant green color, a dark to vibrant green color. I'm going to be using angel green, but you could use any green. You know what, let's use a craft paint so that it's something that you guys might have at home. Okay, so I have two greens here we're going to use. This one's called Arbor Green. And we're going to take this right down here, and we're going to make sure it's a little damp. So I'm going to get a tiny bit of water and a little bit of that green. I'm going to spread that around, okay? And I want this to be a little thicker, but I do need to thin it out because this paint's a little thick. And what I want to do with this is I want to hit his hair. With this. because it's supposed to be like foliage, I think. I'm just taking my time, no hurry. I'm going for at least 95% coverage. If there's a little bit of sticking out here and there, it'll be okay. We'll hide it later on. Okay. I think that's going to work. Let's get that same color and let's thin it down a little bit more with a little bit more water. And since these looked like leaves after I got them done, we'll do a real thin watery coat of this brown on those. And we're going to be lightening these up again too. So make sure you're hitting that portion there with that. At least that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Let's get in front of that. Make sure it's uniform. There we go. And I think there's some, there's some vines on his axe, but I don't know if I can really do those and make them look real good with this. So I'm just going to kind of touch them. Some of the higher spots like that. And not put an enormous amount of effort into that, because what I really don't want to do is ruin the miniature to where I have to do a bunch of fix-up work. So I'm just using the tip of my brush and dragging the high areas and not worrying about an enormous amount of detail there. Okay, let's put this paint away. All right, so on the hair, I'm gonna get a medium green. This is called palm leaf, so it's kind of like medium to light. And it's a little wetter than I like to do this with, but I'm gonna do it just to be safe. I'm getting a very small synthetic brush and a very small amount of that paint. I'm spreading it evenly in the brush, and this is not quite a dry brush. I'm just gonna drag that across lightly to catch some of those higher areas. And if it gets in the cracks a little bit, I'm not sweating it, okay? I'm gonna come across the back and do something similar with less intensity. Because I don't want this to look perfectly layered. Now I'm gonna get one more lighter green and do it again, real lightly. We're just about done with this fella, I think. Okay, so we want to get a lot of that paint off, and this is going to be more like a dry brush. Focus up more where it's high, and just barely when it's down low. That'll give them some natural shade. I'm going to get in the cracks a tiny bit, and we want to really hit the top of the head a little better. All right, cool. He's starting to look good. Now on the sides, leaving that really light green in my brush, I'm going to get this English ivy green. I'm going to dab that into that light green. I'm going to mix that right here and turn that into almost a dry brush too. I'm going to hit those leaves with that to give them some elevation, some depth, but make them not as vibrant as his hair. See that? So just being real careful not to get on the browns. I'm also going to put that on the vines on this axe, and if I get a little bit on the rest of the axe, it won't be noticeable, so I'm not sweating that too much. Okay. Now I want to lighten up his face a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to get the skeleton bone and do like the antler looking things in his face in really, really, really fine detail. So for this, I'm just getting the tiniest little bit of paint. I'm putting it in a brush. This is a real hair brush, not a synthetic. I'm spreading it evenly in the tip and trying to keep my tip as sharp as I can. I'm going to come back and drag it across the face lightly, just to lighten that up a little bit. Then I'm going to come up and I'm going to do these kind of antler deals, these like branches coming up. And I'm not trying to get 100% coverage. I'm going for like 70% coverage. I don't want to fill it in, and I don't want the whole thing to be that color. I want it to be two-toned and worn a little bit. Then with that same color, we're going to come through on these armor parts and just drag it in some spots. Okay. We don't want to do a great job, and we don't want to make a true two-tone. We just want to create some variation. Okay. And then we want to get that real light color again, and we want to leave a little bit in the brush. Let's come back and do all those spikes on the gauntlets. And to do those spikes, instead of actually painting them, we're just dragging it in from different directions to show that they stick out and that they're 3D and they're a different tone. We're just creating the illusion that they're a different color. We're not actually putting the effort into painting tiny little spikes. Then there's these little rings with that thicker paint. These little rings on the armor. We're going to hit those with that real lightly. Not doing an enormous amount of effort there, just touching them. And then let's come back and look. I think we're pretty happy with that. There's one final step. Let's get the beer lid. So we had strong tone in this. Now, either use a soft tone, or if you have it, use military shader. So I'm going to let my military shader shake up because I haven't used it in a while. Normally you want a dry synthetic brush for this. I'm going to be using a wet synthetic brush for this. And I'm not going to be using it everywhere. Okay. So military tone has a green tint. It's very good for like army uniforms and stuff, especially if you're doing like Vietnam era shit. I'm using a damp synthetic brush. And I'm coming in on the hair and the armor, and that's going to subdue it some and take out some of that brightness we added. And we're just going to be careful not to get on any of the light brown spots. If you get it on some of the dark brown spots where you've already had the wash, it won't matter. It's when you hit those light brown spots with it that you'll make mistakes that you don't like and you can't live with. Okay, so we're being super careful. We're doing something like that. And I wasn't going to do the vines, but you know what? I'm just going to dab them a little bit. Just take some of that like saturation up, make it look a little brighter. All right, there we go. There's our boy. Now we have a couple more steps to do. Getting a medium brown and a little bit of cardboard and a small brush. I'll just use the same brush I was just using. Wipe the brush out, get all the moisture out, get a little bit of gray paint, corner of your cardboard. There we go, something like this. Get a lot of that paint out of there. And then just kind of dragging along that brush, giving it that like kind of fantasy realism look. Doesn't have to be perfect. I call it fantasy realism because in real life rocks are just not two-tone gray like that everywhere you go, but it sells the rock in nature look pretty well. Then I'm going to get my small blue brush that I was using to paint detail with, and I'm going to get some black. And I'm going to go around the edge of the base, creating a border where fantasy ends. Come on, there we go. And the real world begins. This is one of my favorite parts of miniatures. I don't always do this, but I do enjoy it. So I'm just going to get that black. And where my baking soda that I use to give the base texture ends, where it's become smooth plastic, I'm I'm just going to paint that like a black ring. Just like that. I really like that difference. I don't know why. I just really, really always have. All right, then we got to make sure we get around the outside. Just like that. Got a bunch of brushes in my water here. Let's get those out of there. Wipe them off with some old little kids' underwear that my kids grew out of. Okay. It's nice having paint all over my hands again. Not had that for a while. I guess you could say I kind of grew out of it temporarily while I was recovering. But I'm back. Not a lot of paint, but some. Feels nice. Alright, let's hit this guy with the air gun. Let's come back and do some flock. You're probably thinking, hey, Doom, some of them's shiny and some of them not because you use so many different products. You're right, but we're going to fix that. Don't you worry your ugly little heads. We're going to fix that right up. First, let's get a toothpick and a little bit of glue. Oh, that glue will not open. This one will. Oh my gosh, Sweeney, it's got a glue condom. Don't worry. I have removed it for everyone's safety. So I'm just getting a little bit of clear PVA and a toothpick. And I'm going to pick some spots where I want my mossy looking flock to lie. I'm going to make some decent little pools and then smash them around so they're not real thick. I need this to dry. Flock's main component, it seems to be sawdust or some kind of paper product, I've noticed, because flock's very flammable. At least it seems to be. Okay. Now let's air gun him one more time. Dry that flock in place a little better, and then we'll clear coat them, and then we'll be done. For my clear coat, I'm using matte clear. Now he's still pretty warm, so this will dry instantly on contact, pretty much. It's a pretty thick coat. We'll hit him with the hot air one more time. There you go. Right? About 30 minutes-ish. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell icon, leave a comment, and all the happy crappy that pleases the algorithm and the woodland spirits. Check out the Discord link, the website link, and the discount code that are all in the description below. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.